Hi, I'm EG11 and welcome to my channel. This is going to be my introductory video about my two emus here, what I plan to be doing in this video series, and the stuff that led me here. So I will be releasing videos about the care of these emus, how to raise them, how much it costs, the sort of things you need to be able to raise these. The reason I've chose to do this is, as I was researching getting them for myself, I found that there really wasn't that much info on emus out there. They're not a standard pet like a cat or dog, and they're also not a standard livestock animal. There's only about 100,000 of them here in the United States, so there really isn't that much data out there about them. In fact, apart from the American Emu Association, the most thorough piece of knowledge is the Emu Farmer's Handbook right here, which was last printed in the 90s. So you're only really going to be able to get an expensive used copy from Amazon or eBay, if you can even find one, and pray that it's in good shape. So, because of that, I decided that there needs to be more emu content for people that are getting into doing this. I did notice as I was going through this process, there's a pretty high demand for emus right now. And I guess part of it is as technology develops, people find uses for emus in ways that it just wasn't feasible to before. For example, a emu farmer up in Michigan told me that General Motors uses the adult emu's feathers in anti-static brushes on their production line, as opposed to using like a fabric brush to remove dust, because emu feathers have oil in them, and that helps prevent static electricity buildup. You know, you'd never think, oh, GM uses emus, but, you know, guess they do. Apart from that, emu meat is very healthy. If you look online, you'll see that in comparison to just about every other standard, and even some of the, you know, rarer, you know, not exotic, but elk, deer, emu meat, at least from the claims I've seen, is healthier in almost every aspect than a lot of them. They're very nutrient dense, which is something that I think, as someone involved in agriculture, nutrient density is going to be a big talking point in the near future, with new methods in agriculture being developed to really focus not on the yield or how much of a crop you can harvest, but how healthy that crop is. And of course, being here in America, we can afford to sponsor emu burgers at Whole Foods rather than somewhere where emu meat might be way too expensive. So in this series, I will be documenting the process from raising them from this age, as you see here. These two emus, the big one right here is the female. Her name is Struth, similar to the Australian exclamation. And the little one down at the far side, if you can see him, is named Oz. He's the male. I will be documenting the process of raising them from Ruth is, I guess, about a month old, and Oz appears to me to be 1 or 2 weeks old. I'll be getting the paperwork for him in a little bit to give me a definite number. So I'll be showing how you raise them, how expensive it is to raise them, and the sort of setup you'll need for this kind of unusual bird. At the same time, in between there, sort of as like bonus episodes, as you can hear in the background, they're here in the hen house with the ducks and chickens, and I'll do little tiny episodes on them for anyone out there who just wants to have a couple of chickens to raise for probably eggs if you're in a suburb area, or if you've got the stomach for it, to raise chickens for meat. Because you may not think it, but chickens are like hideously cheap, at least in comparison to other large farm animals. A chicken is actually really on the expensive side if you just need like a companion pet. So as far as the layout of these videos, I plan to keep them between 10 and 30 minutes. Any longer, and I think my voice would give out. Any shorter, and what's the point in putting out a video? Except, of course, I plan to keep in touch with the comments a lot. I'm sure people will have a lot of questions about these birds. So if you want me to take a video of them doing something, or if you recommend some sort of like food that you want to see them if they eat it, then maybe I'll make a short little video, just 5 minutes long, showing them doing something. One thing I've found is that emus are a lot more active birds than like a duck or chicken. So these guys, they like to run around, of course, and they can run very fast. They will also jump up and down a lot. They'll roll over like a dog, which is hilarious. And maybe that'll be my first little short, is if I can catch a little video of them rolling around, or maybe they'll even do it here while I'm talking. I have no plans to stream at the moment, and I don't even know if I can on YouTube with no views. But if that eventually comes up and there's interest in it, then maybe I'll do it. Of course, as I've said before, I'll take a lot of discussions from comments. As I get done with a lot of the upfront discussions about emus, maybe I'll open it up to more topics surrounding the agriculture space. I'd like to keep it to things I know, and while I'm not the 60-year-old farmer that's got a whole encyclopedia and almanac of knowledge about agriculture, agriculture is something that I'm really passionate about. Being mid-20s as I am, I think proper agriculture can solve a lot of big issues facing America right now that people have currently set expectations in other industries to solve. For example, the carbon crisis and the health crisis. In more ways than you would think. Farming, and in different ways than you would think, farming can impact these two areas a lot more than I've seen the media cover. And unless you're willing to pay hundreds of dollars to go to like the National No-Till Conference, for instance, you're really not getting this stuff. Apart from agriculture, of course, being a current year person, I have played, a couple video games. And of course, one of my personality traits is that I'm incredibly opinionated. So I have my thoughts on the gaming industry, in particular, emerging technologies, like, for example, VR. I own a VR headset. And I really like it, but at the same time, I hate it. I'd like to steer this kind of away from other topics. This isn't a series about me. I guess maybe it'll turn into a series about maybe my thoughts on things, as unfounded and unresearched as they are. So, nothing about my personal life, and really try to keep politics wars out of videos. There's an uncountable amount of other channels you can go to for that, believe me. So I guess agriculture and video games, but keep it on the emus, the birds, cool stuff. So that's going to be the general outline of what I plan to talk about with these emus. So I guess your emu fun fact for today, since this was kind of a boring video, not really about them, but about me in this process, I'll end off with feeding them their favorite, or possibly second favorite food, which is kale. And they'll go right after this stuff. So as you can see, the big one can kind of tear off entire chunks at once. The little guy, I got him more recently, so he's always a little skittish. He's not really strong enough to bite off large pieces yet. But if you tear little bits off for him, then he might come up and grab some from your hand. Or just run past you. Guess this is going to be more about the big girl right here. So as they're eating this, I'll do a little bit more discussion. If you're thinking that getting emus is going to be easy or too hard, I don't think you'll... well, I guess they're already done. As a pet, I'll try to rephrase what I was going to say. Emus aren't really going to be your replacement for a dog or especially a cat. When fully grown, these guys are going to be as tall as I am, and they need a lot of space to run around in. So as opposed to like a goat or a sheep, where you can kind of put them in a small area, you know, small-ish as far as farm animals go, an emu will need a lot of space to run around. So I'll go into depth in this in my next video, but as you can see, this is a long, thin fence because, as you've seen, they run up and down it. If you put them in a square-shaped fence, they won't have as much long space to stretch their legs. So you kind of need to take the same thing into account when building their eventual home for good. I've currently set up a pasture area for them when they grow big enough to not have to worry about the cold Ohio weather, which will be 350 feet long by about 150 feet wide. And it's mostly open field. So if you are looking to... If you're looking to get one of these for yourself, realize that you're going to need some space for them. And I've got two for several reasons. First, I want to get eggs from them, and it is said that the female will not lay eggs unless she has a male, which makes sense because in emus, the male sits on the eggs, and what's the female going to do once she lays them and doesn't have a male to protect the eggs? You know, why bother laying in the first place? So it's not just get one emu, it's get two emus. Also, in general, so they're not lonely. That's another thing. You want your animals to have a lot of companionship, and if you're a young person with a job like me who can't sit out in a rocking chair all day with them, then you're going to need someone for them to be with. It's undetermined right now, but when they go into that pasture, maybe they'll go in there with a goat or two to have another source of companionship. So as you can see the emu eating here, he'll take off bites far too large for himself, and he'll just fling it everywhere. You know. So they really like kale, not only because of its taste, but because it's good for their leg strength. As a bird that's a third legs, they need a lot of leg strength when they're young. And I suppose in a future video where I go over the challenges in particular with young emus, I'll go into a little bit more detail about what you really need to look out for to make sure they don't injure their legs when they're young. Yeah. So I guess they're done with this piece of kale right now. I'll leave it there for him to finish off later. So yeah, that's my introductory video for my series about emus. As this is kind of a re-recording of my previous video before I got my microphone, and it's got a little bit more sound quality, then I will do my best to upload another video shortly after this one discussing probably the upfront things you need to really consider when purchasing emus to raise for, eggs or meat. I'll go through a couple of the pages of the Emu's Farmer's Handbook where they talk about how to lay out your emu pens, And I really hope that you guys enjoy this series. As you know, I'm just doing this for fun, so you can hear the rain and all the machinery in the background, depending on how well I can normalize it out. But feel free to drop your comments below and let me know how I'm doing, what you would like me to do next, just anything else. And it'd be really cool if we get some more experienced emu farmers in here. I'm always open to suggestions about ways to improve my own setup, because, you know, despite how authoritative I might try to sound when I'm talking, I am only an amateur with a lot of research into this. So thanks for watching, and until I see you next time, see you later.